male loneliness is skyrocketing. It's not just men that's it's skyrocketing, but we're going to focus on men just because I think it's a little bit more interesting. And if I have to guess, I'm going to say the vast majority of men are becoming more and more lonelier. They're not really having any friends. They're not going to any social events. They're just staying home. They're living their life, and I respect that. But loneliness is one of those things that it'll eat you up inside. It'll bother you. It'll make you think, hey, why don't I have any friends? Why don't I have anybody to hang out with? And I'm speaking from experience, because at one point, before my relationship, honestly, in between actually both my relationships, I fell into a loneliness part. I felt isolated. I felt like I had nobody to communicate or to talk to, and it's a really bad feeling. But I want to say, at the end of the day, it's going to get a whole lot better for you, especially on your journey. But I want to talk about this one statistic that kind of made my eyes open, and then watching the YouTuber, he mentioned it opened my eyes. I'm like, okay, that made total sense. It clicked, and I understood that, okay, so this is with dating. There's a statistic out there that 63% of men aren't dating at all. And this YouTuber that I was watching, he's like, that number's probably higher. He's thinking about 80-20. I forgot. There's somebody that they came out with the 80-20 rule. Like, the vast majority of wealth is like 80% of it is controlled by the top 20% of earners. And this 80-20 rule is really out there. I think it's like Pareto's law or some shit like that. But essentially, this law or this rule, it proves to be right for the vast majority of things. People that are successful in life, about 80% fail, 20% succeed. 80% of, like, let's say for example my YouTube channel, 80% of my views come from about 20% of my videos, or just like a select few. And this is something that this law proves to be true. And you mentioned like male loneliness, he wouldn't be surprised if that was that high. And it got me thinking, I'm like, okay, that is very possible, just because, like, okay, so 63% of men aren't dating. Let's say that research is a little bit behind, it's delayed. That's probably about 80%. It would be that law. Yeah, if you guys know that law, go ahead and comment down below, because I forgot which one it is. I'll go ahead and leave it in the description, exactly what that law is. I'll go ahead and copy and paste it down there in the description for you guys. But essentially, with that law, if 80% of men are single, well, they're probably lonely, just because they're not having a girlfriend, they're not having a relationship, they're not having something that's like very special. And at the end of the day, you don't need that, but it certainly does help. So this is going to be my experience. So before my relationship, the one that I'm currently in, I felt honestly pretty lonely. I felt like I had nobody to talk to, nobody to communicate with, nobody to just like hang out with, go to do activities with. And it was like one of the worst things ever. And like, you just feel lonely. It's like, it's a feeling inside that it affects your heart. You're like, nobody really cares, nobody even asks you how you're doing. Like, just that interaction part, you don't experience it. And I believe like there's something that like people, there's studies done out there that people need to interact with other people. And if people are just being lonely, being isolated, you can notice this in today's generation. They're either on their phones, like whenever they go out to eat, or whenever they're in public, they're just isolated. I noticed this in the gym. Everybody has headphones. They don't even really talk to each other, except for a select few, the ones that have friend groups, which I believe those are like the 20%. And going back to the original point with the relationship, so during that, before the relationship, I was feeling lonely and isolated. But during the relationship, I honestly feel like I'm pretty good. I feel comfortable. I'm like, hey, things are actually going my way. I have somebody I can communicate with. I have somebody I can go and do activities with, which at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can still go and do things by yourself. You just have to be more determined, more driven, more ambitious about it. Of course, it's going to bother you at first, because there's certain things that I've done before this relationship that I didn't want to, like going out to go and eat to a restaurant. It's honestly one of the hardest things. Your mind starts overthinking it. It's like, hey, if you go out to go and eat by yourself, it's weird, it's awkward. You're not supposed to be doing this, even though you still can. I worked at a restaurant one time, and I would see people all the time going to the restaurant and eating by themselves. Also going to the movies. You never think of going to the movies to go watch a movie by yourself. I have seen this multiple times. I'm like, hey, this person, they're watching a movie by themselves, and I'm like, hey, that's badass, because they ended up doing something that's very difficult. Not many people are able to do this. It's something that you just go to the movie theater and see how many people show up by themselves. The vast majority of people will be with some sort of company. And so going back to loneliness, honestly, loneliness is one of those things that it's gonna eat you up inside. It's gonna bother you, but you have to be comfortable with being lonely at times. You're gonna have times where you have tons and tons of company, and if that doesn't happen, that's fine, because the best company you can ever have with is yourself. You got to be comfortable within your skin. Now, going back to male loneliness, this is something that I honestly think it's a little bit worrisome and then a little bit not, because it could be beneficial. The times you grow the most is by yourself. You don't grow the most when you're having tons and tons of friends during the good times and just enjoying it. You learn through the hardships and the difficulties, and it's bad because like men just in general are becoming more and more isolated. They're no longer just like participating in society. It's something to recognize, but at the end of the day, if you guys are experiencing loneliness, I just want you guys to know that you're not the only one. There's tons of other people that are going through it. It's natural. It's perfectly human to feel like this way. And like I said, I have gone through this before, this relationship that I'm currently in, and if something ever does happen to this relationship, I probably will go back to that state of feeling, which is perfectly natural. Like I said, there's going to be times that you'll have tons of company, and there's times that you won't. And if it doesn't happen, well, you got to learn to get comfortable within yourself. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video topic, go ahead and smash that like button, and I'll go ahead and catch you guys in the next one.